Alright, hello everybody and welcome to my guide to Sirus, the Awakener of Worlds. The reason I decided to make this video is because the fight isn't actually as bad as people make it out to be. They kind of blow it out of proportion, but I also kind of understand why, because the fight is very unintuitive, especially for something that you only get to attempt, at the moment anyway, once every couple of hours. But honestly, once you understand how things work and what you're supposed to do when certain abilities are happening, I feel that it's actually easier than Uber Elder was. So let's start off with the one thing that I would highly recommend you do before you even attempt this fight, and that is to get a jewel that has been corrupted with the implicit corrupted blood cannot be inflicted on you. This is not as important in the first phase, but in the second phase there are things that will just straight up murderize you with the amount and power of corrupted blood they will stack on you. But if you bring one of these jewels that's corrupted with the corrupted blood cannot be inflicted on you, you will not get any corrupted blood stacks on you, and you can actually kind of salvage the situation if you derp up and get hit by those things. So when the fight first starts, you will have to follow Sirus into Oriath, and there will be these massive black and red vortexes. I call them Doomstorms. Do not touch them. I don't know what kind of damage they do. All you need to know is they do a lot and they will kill you in less than a second, so don't touch them. Your first goal here is to make it from the entrance to Sirus without dying to vortexes and stand underneath him, which will trigger the fight and spawn what is the boss arena. This is the red circle that you can see on the ground. This is very important because no vortex will ever follow you into this circle, so it's a clear arena where you can fight, and any existing vortexes that are inside this circle when it spawns will either move out or be destroyed. I honestly don't know which one. Now all you really have to worry about to begin with is not standing in fire, which is pretty self-explanatory. Just don't stand in fire, it hurts. And what is kind of like his auto attack, which is a little beam that he will shoot out periodically, and this doesn't do a lot of damage unless it's the powered up version, which is kind of like a spell echoed version right there, where he will shoot out multiples, and this one really hurts. The best thing you can do here, honestly, is just stay close and run circles around him, because if you do that, he will basically never hit you with anything. Once you take him down to 75%, the first Doomstorm phase begins, where he will kind of teleport you to the middle of the arena, and then create another Doomstorm in the middle of the arena, and this Doomstorm will chase you around. The most important thing here is to not panic, don't be a spaz, and do not move towards the door you used to enter the arena, because the storm will stay there. So move it somewhere where it's not in the way of you getting back to the arena if you were to die. Because if you put the storm not even on top of the door, just close to the door, it will start following you as soon as you zone in, and it will eventually cover the door, which means you cannot get back to the boss anymore. So as he starts spawning the storm, have a look around, see where there is a gap between the already existing storm, so you can take the one storm that will follow you into a corner and then run around it to get back underneath Sirus. Once you step underneath Sirus, he will come back down and you can get to the next part of the first phase. There's also no need to rush this, by the way. You can just take as much time as you want. If you go to a spot and it's like, I don't know if I can get around the storm, you can just run to another spot and put it there instead. But anyway, once you get back, he will start doing some fancier stuff in addition to the fire on the ground and his auto attack. One of them is a corridor where you just run straight towards him, and the second one is a Meteor Maze where one part of the maze is open and you have to run out of it before he throws down a meteor. And as you just saw, I actually forgot my corrupting blood jewel and I almost died because of it. I did actually equip it later on when I died because I didn't have it. So get the jewel. Here we will have another example of the corridor. He spawns it, I just go behind him, it cancels the ability. Also, here you can see Spectral Spirits can actually stun Sirus with their charge, which I think is pretty funny. And this is pretty much it for the first phase. It's not too bad now, is it? Here we will have another example of the Meteor Maze. You can see the exit is clearly marked by the embers flying out of it. Here's another spell echoed auto attack. Here is another corridor, just run towards him. It's really simple. Once you get him down to 50%, he will spawn another Doomstorm. So once again, calm down, have a look around, see where you can kite the storm and then run around it to go back under Sirus to continue the phase. And I'm gonna say this again, try to not move towards the door. I thought I was actually far enough over here, but this screwed me over and I almost died when I was running back. Okay, so try to move it as far away from the door as possible. Now the only thing that will change at this point is that the Meteor Maze, as you can see over here, will now have two layers. So you basically just keep doing what you've been doing up until now. You run circles around him while doing DPS so he doesn't hit you with the auto attack or the echoed auto attack. You don't stand in fire, you run towards him when he puts you in a corridor, and you run out of the maze by following the little embers when he does the meteor thing. And you will keep doing this until you get him down to 25%, where the final Doomstorm phase begins. So once again, don't be a spaz, calm down and kite the storm somewhere where it's not gonna be in the way, and then run around it to go back underneath Sirus so you can continue the fight and go into the last phase. Now, the final phase is a little bit different. He will still do his auto attack, but the echoed auto attack will now track you in about a 60-degree angle, so you have to move a lot more to not get hit by it. He will still do the corridor thing where you have to run towards him, but the maze now has 3 layers to get out of. But he will start doing 2 new abilities, one of which you can see on the screen right now, and here you also have a great example of why you need to bring the goddamn jewel. Now, the 2 new abilities have pretty obvious stealth, so he will either teleport into the air and spawn 3 copies of himself. He, by the way, is the brightest one, so you can still do damage to him during this. And they will then start channeling onto the ground, which will eventually spawn the rotating valve thing. Now, this doesn't do a ton of damage, but it's kind of like a soft enrage timer because it leaves an effect on the ground which is pretty deadly. And the second new ability is where he will spawn a bunch of clones in a circle and will, after a while, charge up a massively ramped up auto attack that will track you to a degree. You can still avoid it, but if you eat all ticks of the damage, it will most likely just straight up kill you. Especially if you're not playing something like a Juggernaut. And the best thing you can do against this is actually listening to him, because he will always say the phrase, "Feel the thrill of the void." And the timing is the same every time. It goes, "Feel the thrill of," then he fires it off, "the void." Feel the thrill of the void, right? Once you get used to this, you can just use a movement skill when you know the spell is going to be fired off, and it's very easy to avoid. I mean, you can just run around and like shield charge around all the time until the ability is over, but that's how I do it. And that is it for the final phase. You just need to do this until he dies. There are no more Doomstorm phases now. This is it. So from now on, you just have to run circles around him to avoid the auto attack and the echoed auto attack, which he also telegraphs by saying just die. If he puts you into the corridor, you just run towards him. If he puts you into the Meteor Maze, you have to make your way out of 3 layers now, which is still not a big deal because all the exits are marked with the floating embers. Don't stand in anything you see on the ground, which are mostly just those, and the reason for that is they shock you, so you take a lot more damage while standing on them. And of course, don't forget to listen for "Feel the Thrill of the Void." Other than that, it's just, normal boss stuff. Just, kill him before he kills you and try to keep him on screen at all times so he doesn't off-screen you with one of his ramped up auto attacks. You don't even need that much DPS if you're not socketing in any watchstones and making him stronger. This right here was my first kill on my Herald of Agony Juggernaut, and I thought it was a really good one because it took bloody forever, but it also shows everything very clearly multiple times, so it's good for a video. And this one, on a fight like this, where I don't have full virulence most of the time, does like 3, maybe 400,000 DPS. So if I, someone who is a complete and utter potato when it comes to bossing, managed to get him down with this build, there is no reason why you shouldn't be able to get him down with a much better one that does far more DPS. All this is about is just not being a spaz, right? So it's like, oh, I appear to be trapped in a maze, I shall calmly make my way out of the maze. I am now out of the maze. Splendid. What's next on the menu, Sirus? Everlasting fire. That's that rotating valve thing, isn't it? Yes. Let's not stand in the beams for too long. Up, a circle of dudes. Feel the thrill of the dodge. Yes, quite fantastic. Oh no, I am standing in fire. I have moved out of the fire. I am safe. Alright, buddy, what do you have next? A corridor. I shall run towards you and give you a hug, which will destroy the corridor by the sheer power of our love. That's it. That's the boss. Aside from the occasional bug, of course, but that's gonna get fixed. So, yeah, this is pretty much the boss right now. And he's dead. Yay! Boss dead. Much loot. Fantastic.